My name is Mallory Combemale. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a co-founder of the Inheritance Project. I was born in Singapore to a Chinese Singaporean mother and a French American father, and I was raised mostly in Northwest London in a very diverse neighborhood, and now I live in an equally diverse neighborhood in New York City. Growing up, I was just naturally surrounded by many different cultures just in my own home. Just visiting my parents' families were complete opposite cultures, opposite values, opposite contexts. And so I really took this for granted and didn't think much of it until I got a scholarship to go to college in Virginia. And that's really where I started realizing how unique my upbringing actually was. While I was in Virginia, it was the first time that people really questioned me about my identity, because growing up in London, there were so many immigrants from all over the world. It was just natural that people were from all different places. But in Virginia, it was the first time where my identity prompted a lot of curiosity in the people that I met. And I would often get questions like, "Where are you from?" And a lot of confusion when I would say London. Because they were looking at me and I didn't look like the stereotype of someone they thought of as a British person. I would also get questions like, "What are you?" which really confused me at first, and I soon came to understand that people were trying to understand what is my race or ethnicity and what kind of category or box do I fit into so that they can understand how to interact with me. And at first I was really perplexed by all of these interactions, and it really made me curious about why do we have this need to categorize each other, and why, especially in America, is this so important for people to know and understand about me. And that led me down a study of anthropology and looking at the history of race and ethnicity and how these categories were created by our society and the history of racialized identity, especially in the US. And I ended up writing my thesis on multiracial identity, and it was a large part of my seeking to understand my place in the world and in this context that I found myself in. My practice of facilitation perhaps began in childhood when my parents, who were often coming at the world from really different worldviews and perspectives, would often have a lot of conflict. I was really blessed to come across this program called Sustained Dialogue when I was a student at UVA. And Sustained Dialogue is a methodology that originally comes from the world of conflict resolution and peace treaty negotiation. And the fundamental premise of it is that before you can get groups who have been in conflict, perhaps violent conflict for generations, to come together and create an agreement or create a collaboration, first there has to be an opportunity for both sides to really express their experience and allow their story to be really truly seen and heard by the other. And only once that feeling of understanding and empathy is in place can any kind of productive talk or collaboration happen. In the Sustained Dialogue program that I facilitated as a student, we were using this methodology to talk about race relations in our community, to talk about sexual assault and gender issues and all the really challenging topics that face our society. And in that context, I really understood the power of bringing people together who might not otherwise be in the same room to share their stories, and using that as the foundation for collaboration and for problem solving. And witnessing that, I saw the power of dialogue to really change the fabric of our society. And it made me reflect on my own life and my own family, because when my dad first announced that he was going to marry my mom, a Chinese woman, his French father, was very against the marriage and even said something to the effect of, "I don't want this yellow peril to pollute my pure French bloodline." And what was so amazing over the course of my life is that when I was born, my parents decided it was really important to heal their relationship with my grandfather. And he started getting to know my mom on a human level. by the time I was around 7 or so, he completely changed his opinion of my mom. They became very close, and he even became fascinated with Chinese culture, started reading books on Chinese history, and even paid for my brother and I to have Chinese lessons when I was growing up. And so I realized that in my own life story, I had this powerful example of what happens when we actually connect with another person from a group that we thought was a certain way, or we thought we had a bias or opinion or a stereotype about, that those beliefs just don't hold water when we're actually faced with the real complex and beautiful human from that identity who's in front of us. And I really believe that so much of the conflict and challenges in our world comes from these ideas about one another that we never get to challenge if we don't actually meet or interact with people from other places, from other identities, and not just meet or interact with, but do so in a really intentional and sustained way where we truly listen to and understand who they are. And from my own family history to all the dialogue groups I facilitated, I've become such a passionate believer in that this is the foundation for how we start to change some of these really big systemic issues in our society. After working as a professional facilitator for many years and observing all the things I observed, I got to a point where I knew that it was time to create something of my own or go out on my own path. And it was perfect timing that Katya approached me right at this moment with her vision and idea for Inheritance Project. And it just spoke to my soul. And I feel like Inheritance Project brings together all the different threads from my life so far, dialogue and creating experiences where people can truly see and understand each other, and using that as an impetus for social change, and yoga, breathwork, meditation, teaching people how to manage our state so we can better collaborate, and everything I learned working as a professional facilitator, seeing leadership teams and all the common pitfalls that they fell into, and really having this strong desire in me to help people collaborate and work together better, plus my own multicultural, multiracial background and studies of identity, and my own personal fascination with the topic of identity and how we shape our own stories. And everything that we teach in facilitator trainings, in leadership trainings, in the programs that we run for organizations are all things that we practice ourselves in the way that we collaborate with one another. Right now, our society is incredibly divided and polarized, and I know so many families who have been ripped apart by politics. And right now, more than ever, being a facilitator who can bring people together who might not see eye to eye, in fact, might vehemently disagree with each other, to be able to create a space where they actually both are able to listen and absorb and understand each other's perspectives, even if they don't agree. And through that process, see their shared humanity. This is the skill that is going to create the foundation for our society to shift, for us to actually be able to collaborate across the aisle and collaborate as a community to create solutions to some of the biggest problems our world is facing. The future that I dream of is one where every single group of people, every single community has the tools that it needs to collaborate most effectively. And it doesn't matter if this is a neighborhood association, a school, or a business. I want every time people are coming together to create solutions or to work together on something, for that real foundation of connectivity and all the tools they need to succeed to be there. So that really is my dream, to see people from all different backgrounds, all different parts of the world, really honoring each other's differences and using them as fuel to create better solutions for our communities. And that could take so many forms. I think we can't even imagine what's possible when we unleash that amount of human potential, when we release all the stereotypes and biases and prejudices and barriers that keep us from really working together, once we let go of all of that, so much potential is going to be unleashed. And all of that can be used towards creating communities and a world where everyone can thrive.